They said it would never happen. They swore Jasmine Washington's story with Kirk Frost was long over, buried deep in the past where love and hip-hop scandals go to fade away. But this week, Jasmine didn't just rewrite her story, she detonated a bomb that no one saw coming. In a tearful, breathtaking livestream that sent fans into a frenzy, she revealed that she's getting married. Yes, you heard that right, Jasmine Washington, the woman once caught in one of reality TV's most infamous love triangles, just announced her engagement. And if that weren't shocking enough, she made it clear that Kirk and Rasheeda Frost are officially invited to the wedding. Within minutes, social media exploded. Comments poured in faster than she could read them. Some fans congratulated her for finally finding peace, while others accused her of stirring the pot all over again. After all, how could Jasmine, the woman who once claimed Kirk fathered her son, suddenly extend an olive branch to the very couple whose marriage nearly fell apart because of her? Was it forgiveness or was it strategy? As Jasmine smiled through tears and held up a glittering engagement ring, her words carried a strange mixture of triumph and tension. "I've learned that healing means facing what broke you," she said. "So yes, they're invited, because I've moved on." But behind that calm, radiant glow, insiders say there's more to this story than Jasmine wants the world to see. People close to her claim this wedding announcement wasn't as spontaneous as it looked. According to one insider, Jasmine had been planning this moment for months. Determined to reclaim her narrative after years of being painted as the other woman, she wanted to show the world that she's grown, that she's no longer chasing headlines, but the timing couldn't have been more dramatic. Just as Rasheeda and Kirk have been working quietly to rebuild their public image, Jasmine steps forward with a new fiancé, a bold statement, and an invitation that feels less like reconciliation and more like a test. The tension doesn't stop there. Rumors are swirling that Rasheeda's reaction behind the scenes was far from graceful. Sources claim she was blindsided when the invitation reached her inbox, complete with gold foil lettering and a handwritten note from Jasmine herself. "It's time to let go of the past," the note said. For Rasheeda, that line hit hard. It wasn't just a wedding invite, it was a reminder of every tear, every headline, every argument that almost tore her marriage apart. And now, fans are asking, will Kirk and Rasheeda actually show up? Will Jasmine's big day become a scene straight out of reality TV chaos? Or is this the moment where old wounds finally begin to heal? One thing is certain, Jasmine Washington's wedding isn't just a love story. It's a comeback, a reckoning, and a statement to everyone who ever doubted her. And if the rumors about her guest list are true, then this ceremony might just become the most talked about event since Love and Hip Hop's biggest betrayal went down on air. Jasmine Washington's voice trembled slightly as she spoke into the camera, her engagement ring catching the light just enough to make every viewer pause. "I'm not that same girl y'all met years ago," she said softly, the corners of her lips pulling into a calm but emotional smile. Her words carried a kind of peace that felt rehearsed, practiced, maybe even controlled. But behind that peace, people could feel something raw. It wasn't just a wedding announcement. It was a declaration. It was Jasmine saying, "I survived the storm and now I'm the one writing the ending." Her fiancé, a tall, quiet businessman named Morris Lewis, stepped into the frame for a moment, kissed her forehead, and disappeared off camera. That moment alone set social media ablaze. Fans began comparing him to Kirk Frost instantly. "He looks like the upgraded version," one comment read. Another said, "Karma aged like fine wine." But the real explosion came when Jasmine said, almost too casually, "And yes, Kirk and Rasheeda are invited." She didn't blink. She didn't smirk. Just said it and let the silence work for her. Behind the scenes though, that silence wasn't peaceful. Rasheeda was reportedly at her boutique, pressed by reporters and fans who wanted to know if she'd really attend Jasmine's wedding. One staff member claimed Rasheeda's face went blank when the topic came up. She didn't answer right away, just stared at her phone as if trying to process whether it was a joke or a setup. Kirk, on the other hand, reportedly muttered, "She just wants attention." But people who followed the Frost family drama know that when Kirk says something like that, it's usually because he's nervous. Hours after the announcement, an old friend of Jasmine's went live, revealing that Jasmine had been planning this invitation for months. According to her, Jasmine knew exactly what she was doing. "This ain't no coincidence," she said. "She wanted them there. She wanted to face them in front of everybody." Some said Jasmine was finally taking control of her story. Others said she was setting the stage for chaos. But everyone agreed on one thing: this wedding was about to reopen every old wound that Love and Hip Hop ever exposed. By that night, every gossip page had the story. TMZ-style blogs were running side-by-side photos of Jasmine, Kirk, and Rasheeda, captioned full circle moment. While fan pages dissected every sentence from Jasmine's livestream like detectives hunting for hidden meaning. Some claimed Jasmine's voice cracked when she mentioned forgiveness. Others said she looked too calm, too composed, like someone who still had something left to prove. And maybe she did. The next morning, Jasmine and Morris were spotted leaving a bridal boutique in Atlanta. Paparazzi shouted questions about the Frosts, but Jasmine only smiled and said, "Everyone deserves closure." Morris held the door for her, and the cameras caught the faintest flicker in his expression, something between pride and unease. Sources close to him said he wasn't thrilled about the invite either. He supports her, one insider said, but he knows this wedding could turn messy fast. Meanwhile, Kirk and Rasheeda were sitting at home, watching the internet lose its mind. Kirk kept saying he didn't care, but Rasheeda's silence said otherwise. She'd been through public humiliation before she knew how headlines could twist a marriage into a circus. Still, this felt different. Jasmine's tone wasn't vengeful. It was unfinished, like she was closing a chapter that had never truly ended. Later that evening, Rasheeda finally spoke to her friend Kendra on the phone. "You think she's serious?" Rasheeda asked, her voice low, tired. "Girl, she mailed you an invite," Kendra replied. "That's serious enough." Rasheeda laughed bitterly. "I just don't know if I can walk into that room. People will think I'm crazy," Kendra sighed. "Or they'll think you're mature. It's been years, Shada. Maybe it's time." Those words lingered. Maybe it's time. Maybe it was. For so long, Rasheeda had been defined by the scandal, by what Kirk did, by what Jasmine represented. Maybe showing up would prove that she wasn't broken anymore. But deep down, she feared that Jasmine's wedding might become another public test of her strength. Kirk wasn't helping either. "Look," he said later that night, "we don't owe her that. Let her do her thing. She's trying to use us for views." Rasheeda just stared at him. "Maybe not everything is about you, Kirk." He didn't reply. As the wedding day drew closer, the storyline took on a life of its own. Fans began creating theories. Was Jasmine inviting them for peace or revenge? Some even suggested there'd be a hidden camera crew waiting to capture the Frosts' reaction if they actually showed up. Jasmine didn't deny it. When a fan commented, "This wedding about to be more dramatic than Love and Hip Hop season finale," Jasmine replied with 3 simple words: "Stay tuned, love." That reply broke the internet. People began speculating that Jasmine's wedding might be filmed for a new show. Insiders whispered that producers had already reached out to document the event. Whether it was true or not didn't matter, the narrative was already spinning. Jasmine Washington, once a footnote in Kirk Frost's messy timeline, was now the headline again. Behind closed doors, Jasmine's friends were both excited and nervous. One bridesmaid reportedly warned her, "You sure about this? If they show up, it's gonna be wild." Jasmine smiled faintly. "That's fine," she said. "Sometimes you gotta face your ghosts in a white dress." 2 weeks before the wedding, Jasmine posted a photo on Instagram. No caption. Just her hand holding the invitation addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Frost. The comments went insane. People tagged Rasheeda nonstop, demanding a response. Instead, Rasheeda posted a story showing her morning coffee with the caption, "Peace is priceless." It was quiet Metarand, yet, somehow, felt like the calm before a storm. By then, Atlanta was buzzing. The media camped outside the boutique, stylists whispered about the guest list, and everyone wanted to know if the Frosts would walk through those doors. Jasmine stayed off live for a few days, letting the speculation do her work for her. Even Morris seemed uneasy, telling a close friend that Jasmine was too focused on optics. But Jasmine didn't waver. "People can say what they want," she told her makeup artist, "but I'm not doing this to be petty. I'm doing this to be free." The makeup artist smiled but said nothing. Because everyone around Jasmine could feel it, this wedding wasn't just about love. It was about reclaiming control. For years, Jasmine had been the scandal. Now, she was the storyteller. Still, deep down, Jasmine knew the Frosts might not come. Maybe that was part of her plan to prove that she had outgrown the need for their validation. But what she didn't expect was the reaction from fans. Polls began circulating online, asking, should Kirk and Rasheeda attend? With thousands voting yes, calling it the ultimate redemption arc. Even celebrities weighed in. One rapper commented, "If Rasheeda pulls up, she the real queen." With the pressure mounting, Kirk finally told Rasheeda they should make a decision. "You wanna go? Let's go," he said, his tone weary but firm. "We show up, smile, stay 30 minutes, and bounce. No drama." Rasheeda didn't answer immediately. Her eyes softened as she looked at him. "You think it'll ever really be over?" she asked quietly. Kirk sighed. "Maybe it's never over, but maybe it don't have to hurt anymore." That night, she opened the invitation one more time, ran her fingers over the gold lettering, and whispered, "Maybe it's time." And just like that, the world started counting down. Jasmine's wedding had become more than an event, it was a cultural moment. Influencers promised live reactions, gossip bloggers hinted they'd secured seats, and fans began booking flights to Atlanta just to catch a glimpse. The internet wasn't just waiting for Jasmine to walk down the aisle. It was waiting for Kirk and Rasheeda to walk through those doors. As the final week approached, Jasmine sat alone in her apartment, scrolling through the endless storm of comments. Her phone buzzed with congratulations, judgment, and curiosity. Morris entered quietly, setting a glass of wine beside her. "You okay?" he asked. Jasmine looked up, smiled faintly, and said, "I will be. After the wedding, everything will finally make sense." Morris didn't respond, because somewhere in his gut, he knew this wedding wasn't just a beginning. It was the end of something Jasmine had been running from for years. And the way she stared out that window, the faint glow of Atlanta's skyline reflecting in her eyes, made it clear. Jasmine Washington wasn't just getting married. She was about to make history, one way or another. The morning of the wedding arrived with a strange, electric tension in the air. Jasmine Washington moved through her apartment like a queen preparing for battle rather than a bride preparing for love. Her dress, a cascade of ivory silk, hung untouched in the corner, waiting for the final moment. Morris hovered nearby, nervously adjusting his cufflinks, glancing at Jasmine with a mix of pride and concern. "You sure about this?" he asked, his voice low. Jasmine smiled faintly, the kind of smile that held both reassurance and a challenge. "I've never been more sure of anything," she replied. Outside, Atlanta had transformed into a media frenzy. Paparazzi lined the streets, cameras trained on every expected guest. Rumors had spread like wildfire that Kirk and Rasheeda Frost were en route, and fans had begun staking out vantage points, whispering predictions and posting theories online. The invitation alone had sparked debates. Would the Frosts attend? Would there be confrontation? Or would they bow out gracefully, leaving Jasmine to her victory? In the Frosts' home, tension ran equally high. Rasheeda paced the living room, holding the invitation in her hand like a fragile relic. Kirk sat on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through endless social media posts, analyzing Jasmine's every move. "I told you, Sheeta," Kirk said, voice heavy. "Don't let this ruin our day. We show up, we smile, we leave. That's it." Rasheeda stopped pacing, glanced at him, and said softly, "You don't get it. This isn't just about showing up. It's about walking into a room that holds every memory of what almost destroyed us." Kirk sighed, running his hand over his face. "Then let's hope we're stronger than the ghosts." Back at Jasmine's apartment, her friends moved quietly around her, finalizing makeup, adjusting the hem of her gown, and checking that everything was perfect. The atmosphere was tense but controlled. One bridesmaid whispered, "People are going to lose it if the Frosts actually show up." Jasmine's eyes gleamed, a mixture of excitement and calculation. "Let them," she said. "If they come, they come. If they don't, the story writes itself." As the ceremony began, the Vendua lavish garden in Midtown Atlanta buzzed with anticipation. Flowers in soft pinks and whites lined the aisle. Chandeliers hung from above, and the soft murmur of guests created a charged hum that made every heartbeat seem louder. Photographers captured every angle, ready to immortalize each reaction. Jasmine stood just off the aisle, taking a deep breath, her hand on Morris's arm. "This is it," she whispered. Morris nodded, squeezing her hand gently. Then, as if scripted for maximum drama, Kirk and Rasheeda appeared at the entrance. Rasheeda's gown was a subtle champagne, understated yet elegant, while Kirk wore a classic black tuxedo. Cameras went wild. Fans erupted online. Hashtag spiked. And the chatter was immediate. Hashtag Frosts at the wedding trended within minutes. The couple exchanged a quick glance, a mixture of hesitation and resolve, before walking toward their seats. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Some gasped, some cheered, and others simply stared, unable to look away. Jasmine's smile never wavered. She watched them approach, heart steady but mind racing. The last time she had seen the Frosts publicly had been filled with tension, accusations, and whispers of betrayal. Now, walking down the aisle with Morris by her side, she felt a sense of triumph. Not revenge, not humiliation, just control. She had set the stage, and everyone, friends, family, fans, was playing their part. As the ceremony progressed, subtle moments added fuel to the spectacle. Rasheeda caught Jasmine's gaze and offered a nod-respect acknowledgement, or perhaps an unspoken truce. Kirk, stiff but composed, took his seat beside her, eyes flicking between Jasmine and Maurice. Every photographer snapped relentlessly, every camera angle capturing micro-expressions that would become headlines in the coming hours. Morris, sensing the weight of the moment, leaned toward Jasmine and whispered, "You okay?" Jasmine exhaled slowly, steadying herself. "More than okay," she replied. "This is history." Indeed, it felt that way. The wedding had already transcended a personal celebration. It had become a spectacle, a reality TV moment in real life. Midway through the vows, Jasmine paused, looking around at the assembled crowd. The words she spoke were heartfelt, yet carefully curated for maximum impact. "I stand here not just for love, but for the journey that brought me here. Every heartbreak, every challenge, every betrayal, it shaped me, strengthened me, and prepared me for this moment." She glanced briefly at Kirk and Rasheeda, who were listening intently. "And I forgive, not for them, but for me, because I am done running from the past." The statement sent ripples through the room. Some guests whispered among themselves, others nodded, and a few snapped photos for immediate social media uploads. Rasheeda's eyes glistened, but she said nothing. Kirk adjusted his posture, face unreadable. Outside, live streams captured every second, and fan reactions exploded in real time. Some called it brave, some called it theatrical, and some simply said it was everything they had hoped for. After the vows, the reception began. Champagne flowed, laughter echoed, and the atmosphere, though still tense, carried an undercurrent of celebration. Behind the smiles and toasts, though, the tension simmered. Subtle glances exchanged between Jasmine and Rasheeda. Small smirks from Kirk, and the ever-present camera lenses created a dynamic that felt electric. One of Jasmine's friends leaned over and whispered, "This is better than reality TV." Jasmine only smiled, sipping her champagne, feeling every eye in the room on her. As the night progressed, the unexpected happened. Kirk and Rasheeda approached Jasmine and Morris at the head table. The room fell silent. Fans online held their breath. Jasmine greeted them calmly, offering a handshake that turned into a brief hug. Rasheeda whispered, "You look beautiful." Kirk added, "Congrats, you deserve this." The gesture, though small, carried enormous weight. The crowd erupted into applause, some crying, some cheering, and others whispering about the unexpected reconciliation. Yet, the drama was far from over. Rumors swirled that one of Jasmine's ex-lovers had arrived uninvited, lingering near the buffet and observing every move. Whispers spread like wildfire. Would he confront Maurice? Would he disrupt the carefully curated event? The cameras caught him lingering near the bar, eyes darting toward Jasmine, and the tension was palpable. But Jasmine, unfazed, continued to glide through the reception, greeting guests, dancing lightly, and maintaining the narrative she had fought so hard to control. Meanwhile, Rasheeda, once tense, began to relax. She shared small smiles with Jasmine, laughter that seemed genuine, a moment of peace that surprised everyone, including Kirk. Morris, sensing the shift, finally allowed himself to relax as well. For a brief moment, the past, with all its scandal and hurt, seemed suspended. The wedding, in all its extravagant glory, had created a fragile, fleeting balance between closure and spectacle, between drama and reconciliation. As the night drew to a close, Jasmine took a quiet moment alone, looking out at the Atlanta skyline. The city twinkled below, lights reflecting off windows like stars. She inhaled deeply, letting the calm settle in. Morris joined her silently, and together they watched as the last guests trickled out. Somewhere in the crowd, Kirk and Rasheeda had left quietly, leaving behind a mixture of awe, curiosity, and unresolved questions. Jasmine smiled faintly. This night, this wedding, had achieved exactly what she wanted. It had rewritten her story, reclaimed her power, and reminded everyone that she was no longer a footnote in someone else's drama. She was the author now, and the next chapter, whatever it held, was hers to write. The following morning, Atlanta was still buzzing. Social media hadn't slept. Every moment from the wedding had been captured, shared, and dissected by millions. Clips of Jasmine walking down the aisle, the subtle nod between her and Rasheeda, and Kirk's measured expressions flooded time. Hashtags like #JasmineWedding, #Frosts at the Wedding, and #AtlantaLove exploded across platforms, each carrying speculation, praise, and the inevitable drama. Fans debated every interaction, every glance, and every whispered word, hungry for the story behind the carefully curated moments. Inside Jasmine's apartment, the quiet was a stark contrast to the chaos online. Morris sat on the couch, scrolling through reactions with a bemused expression. "Did you expect this much attention?" he asked. Jasmine, perched by the window with her wedding bouquet in hand, shook her head with a wry smile. "Attention is one thing. Control is another. And tonight, I controlled everything. She set the bouquet down, fingers brushing over the petals, still absorbing the weight of what she had accomplished. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a statement, a declaration that she had navigated years of scandal, judgment, and betrayal and emerged unshaken. At the Frost household, the air was thick with reflection. Rasheeda sat at her vanity, scrolling through the countless posts and live streams capturing the wedding. Kirk leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "You okay?" he asked, though the question felt more like a test. Rasheeda sighed, brushing her fingers through her hair. "I think I'm starting to understand her," she admitted quietly. "All these years, we thought she was the villain, but tonight, she owned her narrative. She turned what hurt her into power." Kirk's eyes narrowed slightly. "So, what? We just clap and smile. We let her have this." Rasheeda shook her head. "No, Kirk, it's bigger than us. She's done. And maybe that's okay." Meanwhile, the wedding footage continued to dominate headlines. Gossip sites detailed every nuance, the way Jasmine's eyes sparkled during her vows, how Morris subtly supported her without overshadowing her moment, and the brief but powerful exchanges between her and the Frosts. Some claimed the nod between Jasmine and Rasheeda was a silent truce. Others argued it was pure strategy, a calculated move to assert dominance without confrontation. Analysts dissected Kirk's expressions, debating whether he felt relief, envy, or unresolved tension. The public couldn't get enough, and Jasmine's carefully orchestrated control over her story had become the focal point of a citywide spectacle. Inside the venue the night before, an unexpected visitor had made a quiet appearance. A man rumored to be an ex of Jasmine's lingered near the entrance, observing every move. Insiders said he had been invited by a mutual friend, though the gesture was supposedly innocent. Still, his presence added another layer of tension. Whispers spread through staff and guests alike. Would he speak up? Would he disrupt the delicate balance? Yet, as the night unfolded, he stayed in the shadows, watching, waiting. Perhaps understanding that this wedding wasn't just about love, it was about finality, power, and narrative control. Later that evening, Jasmine and Morris slipped away to a private balcony, overlooking the city lights. The wind carried a soft chill, rustling the leaves of the surrounding trees, mirroring the subtle turbulence that had followed her for years. "Do you feel lighter?" Morris asked gently, sensing the release that had come over her. Jasmine exhaled slowly, eyes fixed on the horizon. "Heavier and lighter," she admitted. "Heavier because the past still lingers in the minds of others. Lighter because I finally own my story. No one can rewrite it now. Not them, not anyone." Back in Atlanta, fan communities were ablaze with speculation about the Frosts' intentions moving forward. Would this wedding change the dynamic publicly between Kirk, Rasheeda, and Jasmine? Would it influence their appearances on Love and Hip Hop, or shift public perception entirely? Analysts and bloggers offered predictions ranging from complete reconciliation to brewing tension. Waiting for the next headline, every comment, every theory, became part of a larger narrative. In this digital age, the wedding wasn't just an event, it was content, influence, and cultural currency. Jasmine's friends, who had witnessed the planning, preparation, and tension, began sharing behind-the-scenes snippets, small moments that had been carefully curated, like laughter over a shared joke or the quick hug between Jasmine and Rasheeda. Each clip added to the narrative of control and triumph. "She's a master of her own story," one bridesmaid said. "Everything was intentional. Every glance, every pause. She turned a wedding into an epic saga." As the week progressed, interviews emerged. Jasmine spoke to select media outlets, discussing the importance of forgiveness, growth, and empowerment. When asked directly if the Frosts would attend future personal events, she responded with measured calm. "Life isn't about revenge. It's about moving forward. Whether they're there or not, I've made peace with my journey." Her words, though calm, carried the weight of years of tension and drama. Simultaneously, Kirk and Rasheeda navigated their public responses carefully. While neither released extensive statements, photos of them attending a charity gala together subtly hinted at a united front. Fans speculated endlessly, reading between the lines, attempting to interpret body language and eye contact for hidden meanings. Insiders suggested that both were aware of the narrative power Jasmine had wielded through her wedding. It was clear to everyone involved, the event wasn't just a ceremony, it was a turning point, a redefining moment in the ongoing story of their intertwined lives. Even private conversations captured the complexity of the aftermath. Rasheeda reportedly told a close friend, "Maybe she needed to do this to show herself she's strong. Maybe this is the final chapter for her, not us." Kirk, still skeptical, muttered, "She never stopped being in our story." She just righted her way. Both statements reflected the lingering tension. Closure existed on one side, control on the other, and the world watched, rapt, as the narrative unfolded. As days turned into a week after the wedding, content from the event continued to surface online. Behind-the-scenes photos, candid smiles, and fleeting interactions between guests painted a layered picture of celebration and unresolved emotion. Jasmine remained composed, serene, and poised, her carefully maintained image a testament to years of strategy and resilience. Maurice, equally steadfast, supported her presence while allowing her story to dominate. By the end of the week, one thing was clear: Jasmine Washington's wedding had transcended its original purpose. It wasn't merely about love or celebration. It was about reclaiming narrative, asserting presence, and confronting the ghosts of the past without losing one's dignity. Atlanta, social media, and the entertainment world would continue dissecting every interaction, every glance, every subtle gesture for months. The event had become legendary, a defining moment in the tangled, dramatic saga that fans had followed for years. And as Jasmine sat back, reflecting on the whirlwind of events, she understood fully. She had done more than marry Morris Lewis. She had redefined herself, faced the past, and commanded the spotlight in a way only she could. The Frost's reactions, the fans' opinions, the media frenzy, it all mattered, but none of it controlled her. She had, finally, written the ending she wanted. And yet everyone knew the story wasn't over. It was simply evolving, and Jasmine Washington would remain at its center, poised, powerful, and undeniably unforgettable. As the weeks passed, the aftermath of Jasmine Washington's wedding continued to reverberate across Atlanta and social media. Clips of the ceremony, from her radiant smile to the subtle, loaded nod between her and Rasheeda, were shared endlessly. Memes, reaction videos, and commentary flooded platforms, each interpretation sparking heated debates among fans. Some called the event a triumph of empowerment, others whispered about hidden motives and calculated moves. The world couldn't stop talking about it, and Jasmine's name dominated headlines in ways she had only ever dreamed. Inside her apartment, Jasmine and Morris settled into a quieter rhythm. Yet, even in this calm, the undercurrents of tension lingered. Morris, though supportive, still expressed unease about the Frost's presence. "You really think inviting them was wise?" he asked one evening, sipping his wine. Jasmine, brushing her fingers over a bouquet from the wedding that she'd kept, shook her head slightly. "Wise or not, it was necessary. It was never about them, it was about me reclaiming control. Everything else is noise." Her words, firm and unwavering, revealed the careful strategy behind every detail. At the Frost household, the echoes of the wedding were palpable. Kirk and Rasheeda had returned to their routines, but the public attention refused to fade. Fans dissected every post, every public appearance, hunting for signs of change, subtle tensions, or reconciliations. Some suggested Rasheeda's calm demeanor was evidence of genuine closure, while others argued Kirk's stoic expressions hinted at lingering resentment. Insiders close to the couple claimed that private conversations often revolved around how Jasmine's narrative had shifted public perception, forcing them to reconsider how they managed their image. Jasmine, meanwhile, was already planning the next chapter. Private friends whispered about her ambitions, about how she intended to use the momentum from her wedding to further solidify her independence and influence. She was meticulous, reviewing photos, approving interviews, and ensuring that every narrative aligned with her vision. Her message was clear. This was not a fleeting moment of drama, but a defining statement that she controlled her story, her image, and her life. Even the ex-lovers and acquaintances who had once been part of the drama found themselves drawn back into the narrative. A subtle presence at the wedding, previously unnoticed, became the subject of speculation online. Some claimed he had been observing Maurice closely, others insisted he was gauging Jasmine's reaction to potential tension. While nothing overt occurred, his presence added another layer of intrigue, feeding the social media frenzy and keeping the story alive far beyond the ceremony itself. As interviews and behind-the-scenes content continued to emerge, Jasmine's poise became a central talking point. Her interactions with guests, the gentle laughter shared with friends, and the controlled, respectful engagement with the Frosts were all dissected and analyzed. Fans debated whether the nods and smiles exchanged with Rasheeda represented genuine forgiveness or calculated theatrics. The speculation alone reinforced Jasmine's influence, demonstrating that she had mastered the delicate balance of public image and private triumph. Meanwhile, Kirk and Rasheeda cautiously navigated their public appearances, charity events, Media interviews and social gatherings became opportunities to subtly acknowledge the wedding while maintaining composure. Each smile, each measured comment, was scrutinized by fans and media alike. The couple understood that the wedding had shifted the narrative in ways they could not ignore. Jasmine's presence and controlled messaging had created a benchmark that both highlighted past tensions and demanded acknowledgement of her strength. Private conversations continued to reveal the depth of the underlying tension. Rasheeda, reflecting with close friends, expressed a mix of admiration and unease. "She really did own the room," she said. "Every move was intentional, every glance deliberate. It's impressive and intimidating." Kirk, on the other hand, remained cautious, often reminding Rasheeda that public perception could be fleeting. "Don't get caught up in the hype," he warned. She made a statement. "Yes, but it doesn't erase history. Stay grounded." The city itself became part of the unfolding drama. Atlanta, a hub of media and entertainment, buzzed with post-wedding commentary. Talk shows, blogs, and fan forums dissected every angle, every nuance, and every potential fallout. Jasmine's controlled engagement with the media, posting curated photos, offering selective interviews, and maintaining an air of composed empowerment reinforced her influence, ensuring that the conversation remained centered on her narrative. Despite the intense attention, Jasmine maintained a calm exterior. Private friends noted that her focus had shifted toward long-term objectives: personal growth, career ambitions, and strategic positioning in the entertainment world. Morris remained a steady presence, supporting her without overshadowing her control. Together, they navigated the complex intersection of public perception and private life, carefully managing each step while allowing the story to unfold organically around them. Rumors persisted about potential appearances by the Frosts at future events, and online speculation reached fever pitch. Fans debated whether their participation would signify true reconciliation or merely a performative gesture. Insiders claimed that Kirk and Rasheeda were conscious of the public scrutiny, aware that any misstep could reignite old narratives. The tension between control and unpredictability kept the public captivated, ensuring that Jasmine's wedding would remain a touchstone in ongoing discussions for months to come. Through it all, Jasmine continued to assert her presence. Her social media strategy, carefully timed interviews, and selective sharing of behind-the-scenes content reinforced the narrative of empowerment and closure. She had transformed a personal milestone into a cultural event, controlling both the storyline and the perception surrounding it. Fans and critics alike were captivated, drawn into a complex web of personal triumph, subtle drama, and calculated public engagement. As the weeks turned into a month, Jasmine Washington's wedding was no longer just a ceremony. It had become a case study in narrative control, public perception, and the art of transforming personal experiences into cultural currency. Every glance, every interaction, every carefully managed moment contributed to a story that was uniquely hers. Kirk and Rasheeda's measured responses, the media's unrelenting coverage, and the fans' obsessive speculation all reinforced the central truth. Jasmine had reclaimed her narrative, commanding attention, respect, and influence in ways few could achieve. And yet, beneath the polished images and carefully curated content, the echoes of the past lingered. Private conversations, subtle glances, and quiet reflections reminded everyone involved that the drama, while transformed, was not entirely gone. It had evolved, taken on new forms, and continued to influence the actions, perceptions, and decisions of everyone connected to the story. Jasmine Washington had not just survived her past, she had reshaped it, and in doing so, had created a powerful, enduring legacy that would reverberate far beyond the walls of her wedding venue and the city of Atlanta itself. As summer turned to late August, the ripples from Jasmine Washington's wedding continued to spread, reaching corners of Atlanta and the entertainment world that few could have anticipated. Every social media platform was still alight with commentary, clips, and analysis. The story had transcended its original scope. It wasn't just about Jasmine marrying Morris Lewis, or the Frosts attending. It had become a masterclass in narrative control, reputation management, and the subtle art of turning personal milestones into cultural moments. Jasmine herself had shifted focus. Behind the scenes, she began planning philanthropic appearances, media engagements, and networking events, each carefully designed to consolidate her influence and reinforce the image of empowerment and closure that her wedding had projected. Morris, loyal and attentive, remained her anchor, offering guidance and reassurance while allowing Jasmine to remain the center of attention. Together, they navigated the delicate balance of public perception, media scrutiny, and personal growth. At the Frost residence, Kirk and Rasheeda had settled into a rhythm of cautious observation. Fans speculated endlessly about whether they were genuinely at peace with the wedding or merely managing their public image. Insiders suggested that Rasheeda's calm demeanor was a mix of admiration and subtle insecurity. She really did own the room, Rasheeda reportedly told a close friend. Everything about her, the dress, the words, the confidence was impeccable. It's inspiring and unnerving. Kirk, meanwhile, focused on maintaining composure, aware that any public reaction could reignite the speculation surrounding their involvement. Even months later, behind-the-scenes narratives continued to emerge. A photographer, who had covered the wedding extensively, leaked subtle details of the interactions between guests, noting moments of tension and silent acknowledgement. Small gestures, like the brief touch of hands between Jasmine and Rasheeda, were interpreted by fans as signs of reconciliation. Whispers about Morris's composed presence, his protective yet respectful demeanor, further fueled online discussions, cementing the wedding as a defining moment in contemporary entertainment gossip. Public reactions remained as varied as ever. Some fans hailed the event as a triumph of personal empowerment and closure, praising Jasmine for confronting the past and owning her narrative. Others questioned her motives, arguing that the calculated inclusion of Kirk and Rasheeda suggested a deeper strategy, a deliberate positioning to maintain attention and relevance. Commentary threads exploded with debate, analyzing every angle, every glance, every smile. The event had become more than a wedding, it was a phenomenon. A story that demanded participation, interpretation, and speculation. Jasmine's post-wedding content reinforced the narrative of empowerment. Carefully timed photos, snippets of interviews, and curated stories projected a sense of confidence and calm. Yet, she maintained subtle reminders of the past drama, hints that she had endured, learned, and emerged stronger. Maurice's presence in these moments reinforced the stability and support in her life, providing contrast to the lingering tensions surrounding the Frosts. The combination of control, strategy, and personal growth created a compelling narrative that captivated audiences continuously. Meanwhile, Kirk and Rasheeda managed their own public engagements with a careful eye toward perception. Media appearances, charity events, and interviews were orchestrated to convey unity, composure, and emotional intelligence. Analysts and bloggers dissected every move, debating whether their calmness indicated true closure or carefully curated restraint. The interplay between Jasmine's assertive control and the Frost's measured responses became a subject of fascination, keeping the narrative alive and ever-evolving. Private reflections added depth to the unfolding story. Jasmine, in quiet moments, acknowledged the complexity of the emotions surrounding her wedding. It wasn't just about love or celebration, she confided to a close friend. It was about proving to myself that I can control my story, face the past, and emerge stronger. The rest, the attention, the opinions, their consequences, I accept willingly. Maurice, observing her composure and confidence, felt reassured, recognizing the deliberate and thoughtful manner in which Jasmine navigated every interaction and decision. As media coverage persisted, theorists and influencers speculated about the long-term impact of the wedding. Some argued that it had fundamentally altered public perception of the Frosts, recasting past scandals in a different light. Others suggested that Jasmine's careful orchestration had cemented her legacy as a figure capable of managing attention, narrative, and influence with precision. The ongoing dialogue ensured that her wedding would remain a reference point for both entertainment journalism and fan discussions for months to come. Additionally, Jasmine's approach to the narrative demonstrated a keen understanding of timing and influence. Her selective sharing of behind-the-scenes moments, her controlled interactions with Kirk and Rasheeda, and her ability to navigate the nuances of public attention all contributed to a compelling multi-layered story. It wasn't just a wedding, it was a showcase of strategic poise, emotional intelligence, and narrative mastery. Even in the private sphere, the legacy of the wedding lingered. Casual conversations among friends, whispered reflections at events, and subtle nods in interviews reinforced the cultural weight of Jasmine's choices. Morris's unwavering support allowed her to remain the focal point, emphasizing her agency and control. Simultaneously, Kirk and Rasheeda's measured responses reflected an acknowledgement of Jasmine's influence and the subtle recalibration of their own public narrative. Fans, ever vigilant, continued to analyze, theorize, and engage. Social media threads remained active, dissecting gestures, facial expressions, and interactions. Debates persisted over whether Rasheeda's composed demeanor represented genuine reconciliation, or whether Kirk's stoic presence masked unresolved tension. Every subtlety was scrutinized, ensuring that the story remained alive, compelling, and endlessly engaging. In private reflections, Jasmine recognized the delicate balance she had achieved. She had faced the ghosts of her past, claimed her narrative, and commanded attention in ways few could. The wedding, though a personal milestone, had become a larger story about empowerment, control, and transformation. Morris's supportive presence reinforced her ability to navigate both personal and public domains with precision. Over time, the wedding evolved from an event into a symbol. It represented resilience, strategic foresight, and the capacity to transform personal challenges into moments of public significance. Fans, media outlets, and entertainment analysts continued to reference it as a defining moment in contemporary celebrity culture, a touchstone for discussions of narrative control, influence, and the intersection of personal milestones with public perception. And as Jasmine Washington looked forward, she understood the implications clearly. The wedding was not an end, but a turning point. Her careful orchestration, poise, and strategic engagement had reshaped perceptions, established influence, and secured her place at the center of a story that would continue to captivate and inspire. She had not merely celebrated a union, she had demonstrated mastery over her life, her narrative, and the attention of the world. The echoes of her choices would resonate far beyond the event itself, solidifying her legacy and ensuring that her story, in all its complexity, remained unforgettable. The months following Jasmine Washington's wedding became a period of both celebration and calculated strategy. Atlanta's entertainment circles remained abuzz, dissecting every interaction, subtle glance, and social media post. The wedding had transcended its initial purpose. It was no longer simply a personal milestone. It had become a cultural moment, a story of empowerment, control, and narrative mastery that fans, influencers, and media outlets could not stop analyzing. Jasmine and Morris settled into a rhythm, balancing private life with public appearances. Their chemistry, polished yet genuine, became a recurring topic of conversation among fans and journalists alike. Every post on social media, every carefully framed photo, reinforced the image of a couple united, confident, and in control. Yet behind this calm exterior, the undertones of lingering tension and complex histories persisted, adding layers of intrigue to the narrative. At the Frost household, Kirk and Rasheeda continued to navigate the ongoing attention. Their public composure was deliberate. Both understood that any misstep could reignite discussions about the wedding and the drama surrounding it. Rasheeda reflected privately, acknowledging Jasmine's remarkable ability to control perception. "She's not just strong," she confided to a friend. "She's calculated. She knows how to turn the story in her favor." Kirk, however, remained more guarded, often reminding Rasheeda to maintain distance from the narrative. "Let her have her moment," he said, "but don't lose sight of reality." Media coverage continued to amplify the drama. Interviews, opinion pieces, and live stream analyses kept the story alive. Clips of Jasmine interacting with the Frosts, laughing with Maurice, and managing guests with poise went viral repeatedly. Hashtags resurfaced periodically, reigniting debate and speculation. The wedding had evolved into a reference point for discussions of narrative control, emotional intelligence, and the strategic management of public perception. Jasmine herself remained deliberate in her approach. She shared curated moments from her honeymoon, personal reflections on growth and forgiveness, and subtle acknowledgments of the past drama without giving it power over her present. Maurice's presence reinforced stability, providing a contrast to the tension that still lingered around the Frosts. Together, they maintained a careful balance, allowing the public to engage with the story while keeping their private life shielded and controlled. Rumors and speculation continued to circulate. Some fans suggested that the Frosts' presence at the wedding hinted at potential reconciliations or new collaborations in public projects. Others speculated about unresolved tensions, interpreting body language and social media activity as signs of conflict or silent rivalry. The duality kept the story compelling, ensuring that it remained at the forefront of entertainment conversations. Additionally, Jasmine's strategic engagement with media outlets reinforced her influence. Selective interviews highlighted her empowerment, resilience, and poise, subtly referencing her past without giving it undue power. Maurice remained a supportive presence, often allowing Jasmine's words and image to take precedence, reinforcing the perception that she was the architect of her own story. Private discussions revealed the depth of the emotional complexity. Jasmine acknowledged that the wedding had been about more than celebration. It had been about reclaiming control and demonstrating mastery over her narrative. It wasn't just a wedding, she admitted to a confidant. It was a statement. I've faced my past, asserted my presence, and ensured that my story is told on my terms. The rest is just noise. Kirk and Rasheeda's responses remained measured, balancing acknowledgement with restraint. Public appearances were carefully choreographed, each gesture and comment weighed against potential interpretations. Insiders suggested that both were aware of the shift in public perception, recognizing that Jasmine had redefined the narrative in ways that would be difficult to counteract. As the season progressed, Jasmine expanded her influence beyond personal milestones. She engaged in community events, philanthropy, and media projects that reinforced her image as empowered and influential. Every public appearance, every post, and every carefully framed interaction contributed to a multi-layered narrative that blended personal triumph, strategic engagement, and cultural impact. Fans remained deeply invested. Social media threads, forums, and reaction videos dissected every moment. From gestures and expressions to unspoken interactions, the community debated motives, interpreted symbolism, and theorized about potential developments, keeping the story alive and dynamic. Jasmine's mastery of narrative control ensured that each discussion reinforced her image, whether intentionally or not. Over time, the wedding's influence became a case study in narrative management. Entertainment analysts highlighted Jasmine's ability to transform a personal milestone into a cultural phenomenon, blending emotion, strategy, and performance in a way that commanded attention and respect. Kirk and Rasheeda's cautious engagement provided contrast, emphasizing the power of deliberate, measured responses in the face of public scrutiny. In private reflection, Jasmine recognized the significance of her achievement. She had faced the ghosts of her past, reclaimed agency, and demonstrated control over her narrative in ways few could match. Morris's support amplified this strength, creating a dynamic of mutual respect, balance, and stability. The wedding had been a catalyst, transforming personal triumph into cultural influence, and positioning Jasmine Washington as a figure of empowerment, control, and narrative mastery in the eyes of the world. As the year progressed, Atlanta's entertainment scene continued to reference the wedding. It remained a touchstone for discussions of strategy, influence, and public perception, a story that fans returned to repeatedly. The echoes of Jasmine's choices, the Frost's measured responses, and the ongoing speculation ensured that the narrative remained alive, evolving, and compelling, securing Jasmine's place at the center of a story that transcended its original event and became a cultural landmark. The months after Jasmine Washington's wedding unfolded like a carefully orchestrated drama, with the city of Atlanta and fans across the globe hanging on every development. The event had already transformed from a personal milestone into a cultural spectacle, and its effects continued to reverberate long after the last guest had left the venue. Social media platforms were flooded with analyses, reaction videos, and discussions about subtle gestures, expressions, and interactions, keeping Jasmine and Morris at the center of attention. Every movement, every glance, and every post was dissected, feeding the public's appetite for insight into what had become the most talked about wedding of the year. Jasmine, fully aware of the power she now wielded, embraced the spotlight with a mix of poise and strategic intent. She continued to post carefully curated images and videos, highlighting not just the love and celebration with Maurice, but also the control she exercised over the narrative that surrounded her life. Her captions often hinted at resilience, empowerment, and self-mastery without directly addressing the drama that had accompanied her rise. Fans and media outlets alike were captivated by this subtlety, interpreting every post for hidden meaning, and fueling the frenzy with theories about past relationships, the Frost's attendance, and the future of Jasmine's personal and public life. Morris Lewis remained a steadfast presence by her side. In interviews, he emphasized Jasmine's intelligence, grace, and unwavering confidence, always deflecting the attention back to her. His role was pivotal. He provided balance, ensuring that while Jasmine was at the center of attention, she also appeared grounded and approachable. Together, they were a study in public perception, a couple that was united, composed, and deliberate, yet always leaving room for curiosity, speculation, and intrigue. At the Frost household, Kirk and Rasheeda continued to navigate the complicated aftermath of the wedding, while their public appearances were controlled. Private conversations revealed a mixture of admiration, caution, and residual tension. Rasheeda, reflecting on the event, confided to a close friend, "She's stronger than we imagined. Every gesture, every interaction, it was intentional, calculated. She didn't just walk down the aisle. She commanded the room and made it hers." Kirk, ever the skeptic, remained cautious. "Impressive as she is, the story isn't over. Perception can be fleeting, and we need to stay aware. The duality of respect and apprehension shaped their actions in the months that followed, influencing both private decisions and public appearances. As the public's fascination continued, Jasmine expanded her influence into new areas. She participated in charitable initiatives, public speaking events, and curated media appearances, each reinforcing her image as empowered, strategic, and culturally relevant. Her ability to control the narrative extended beyond social media, reaching real-world influence where every engagement became an opportunity to reinforce her persona. Morris's support remained subtle, yet critical, allowing Jasmine to shine without distraction while reinforcing the perception of stability and mutual respect. The Frosts' public strategy remained more measured. They attended events together, carefully crafted their social media presence, and maintained a composed demeanor in interviews. While they never directly referenced the wedding again, the echoes of that night influenced how fans and media interpreted their actions. Subtle gestures, a nod here, a smile there, were scrutinized, often with the assumption that these signals represented reconciliation, acknowledgement, or silent competition. Analysts debated whether the Frosts' composure was genuine or performative, but regardless of the interpretation, Jasmine's careful orchestration of the wedding had undeniably shifted the narrative in her favor. Rumors about future interactions continued to flourish. Fans speculated about potential collaborations, reconciliations, or confrontations, drawing connections between Jasmine's ongoing appearances and the Frosts' actions. Each social media post, interview, and public engagement became a new data point in an ongoing narrative that had already captivated thousands. Insiders noted that Jasmine's strategic patience allowed her to maintain the momentum without appearing desperate or overexposed, a delicate balance that few in the entertainment world could manage. Even private reflections revealed the depth of Jasmine's strategic mastery. She often spent evenings reviewing footage from the wedding, noting subtle exchanges and gestures that conveyed messages without words. She analyzed interviews, fan reactions, and media coverage to gauge public perception, refining her approach to ensure that every subsequent action reinforced the narrative she wanted to control. Morris, while supportive, was careful not to interfere, recognizing that Jasmine's strength lay in her autonomy and ability to manage her own story. Meanwhile, the Frosts occasionally discussed their own strategy in private, weighing how to respond to ongoing speculation. Rasheeda often remarked on Jasmine's influence, noting that her ability to control attention and perception was unlike anything they had encountered before. Kirk, more cautious, emphasized restraint and the importance of avoiding actions that could inadvertently feed into the narrative that Jasmine had created. Their approach was defensive yet strategic, acknowledging Jasmine's mastery while seeking to maintain dignity and credibility in the public eye. As autumn arrived, Atlanta's entertainment media continued to dissect the impact of the wedding. Analysts wrote in-depth pieces about narrative control, personal branding, and the ability to transform a private event into a cultural touchstone. The wedding became a case study in how personal milestones, when executed with precision and intention, could resonate far beyond the immediate circle of family and friends. Social media engagement remained high, with fans continuously returning to footage, photos, and discussions, analyzing the subtleties of interactions and gestures from months prior. In the midst of all this, Jasmine began to focus on mentorship and community engagement. She met with young women interested in media, branding, and personal development, sharing insights from her experiences. She emphasized the importance of owning one's story, confronting past challenges with strength, and strategically managing public perception. Morris continued to provide unwavering support, offering guidance when needed while ensuring Jasmine's voice remained at the forefront. These actions further solidified her reputation not only as a media figure, but also as a role model and influencer within her community. The Frosts' ongoing presence in the narrative added a layer of intrigue that kept the story alive. Every appearance, every carefully composed photo, every subtle interaction with fans or media was analyzed for hidden meaning. Speculation about potential reconciliations or confrontations persisted, keeping the wedding's influence ongoing. Insiders noted that while the Frosts had attempted to maintain a low profile, the legacy of that night continued to shape both their personal and public decisions. Fans, analysts, and social media influencers continued to engage with the narrative actively. Threads dissected interactions, debated motives, and theorized about future developments. Jasmine's ability to sustain interest and attention, months after the event, highlighted her strategic brilliance. Each post, photo, and interview reinforced her narrative, demonstrating an understanding of timing, influence, and the interplay between personal milestones and public perception. Jasmine's personal life, meanwhile, continued to thrive under the careful balance she had cultivated. She and Morris maintained a grounded and supportive relationship, navigating the intersection of private life and public spectacle with deliberate precision. The stability of their partnership provided a foundation for both personal fulfillment and public influence, allowing Jasmine to continue shaping the narrative in ways that were both authentic and compelling. As winter approached, the wedding's cultural footprint remained significant. Social media content, articles, and fan discussions ensured that the story continued to resonate, serving as a reference point for narrative mastery and strategic personal branding. Jasmine Washington had not simply married Maurice Lewis, she had demonstrated an unparalleled ability to control perception, navigate public attention, and transform a personal milestone into a defining moment of influence and empowerment. The Frosts, while continuing to maintain a composed public presence, also acknowledged the lasting impact of the wedding on their own narrative. Subtle gestures, carefully managed appearances, and selective engagement with media and fans were all influenced by Jasmine's strategic orchestration. The dynamic created a continuing tension between admiration, acknowledgement, and the ongoing negotiation of personal and public identity, ensuring that the story remained vibrant and compelling. And throughout all this, Jasmine remained acutely aware of her own power. She had faced her past, reclaimed her narrative, and transformed a private milestone into a cultural phenomenon that captivated, inspired, and commanded attention. Maurice's steadfast support amplified her strength, reinforcing a dynamic of mutual respect and strategic engagement. The wedding's influence, far from fading, continued to shape public perception, media narratives, and fan engagement, solidifying Jasmine Washington's place as a figure of empowerment, control, and enduring influence in the entertainment world. Even as new events, projects, and milestones unfolded, the legacy of that night remained an ever-present reference point. Every glance, every gesture, every carefully crafted post reminded audiences of the power of narrative control and strategic mastery. Fans and analysts alike returned repeatedly to the story, dissecting the subtle layers, debating implications, and marveling at Jasmine's ability to command attention and shape perception with such precision. The wedding, in essence, had become immortalized, not merely as a ceremony, but as a defining cultural moment that would continue to influence perceptions, conversations, and personal narratives for years to come. Through it all, one thing was clear: Jasmine Washington had achieved more than a personal milestone. She had demonstrated mastery over her own narrative, wielded influence with precision, and created a lasting cultural footprint that extended far beyond the immediate drama. Maurice's supportive presence reinforced her authority, and the measured responses of Kirk and Rasheeda further highlighted the extent of her impact. The story was far from over, yet the power dynamics were clear. Jasmine Washington controlled the narrative, and the world, eager and captivated, continued to watch, analyze, and engage with every unfolding chapter. The wedding had become a blueprint, a case study, and a spectacle all at once. It was a moment where personal triumph, strategic planning, and public perception converged to create something extraordinary. The influence of that event extended into media, entertainment, social discourse, and personal. The influence of Jasmine Washington's wedding continued to ripple through Atlanta and beyond, evolving into a story that transcended the ordinary boundaries of entertainment news. Months had passed since the ceremony, but its impact was far from fading. Social media remained a fertile ground for discussion, with fans, influencers, and media outlets endlessly analyzing the nuances of every interaction, gesture, and post. Every carefully curated photograph, every public appearance, and every statement made by Jasmine or Morris was dissected for hidden meaning, fueling a constant cycle of speculation and debate that ensured the story remained alive. Jasmine herself embraced this heightened attention with strategic confidence. She understood that the power of the wedding extended beyond the immediate celebration. It was an opportunity to shape perception, influence narratives, and solidify her place in the entertainment world. In interviews, she spoke with poise about empowerment, self-mastery, and personal growth, deliberately highlighting the lessons learned from navigating past challenges without ever directly referencing the lingering drama with Kirk and Rasheeda. Morris, ever supportive, allowed her to take center stage, reinforcing her autonomy while providing stability and guidance when necessary. Together, they embodied a calculated balance of intimacy, authenticity, and public influence, The Frosts continued to navigate the delicate landscape created by Jasmine's assertive presence. Kirk and Rasheeda understood that the wedding had redefined public perception, and they adjusted their public engagements accordingly. Interviews were measured, social media posts carefully composed, and appearances orchestrated to project composure and credibility. While they never publicly commented on the wedding, their subtle interactions, brief nods, carefully timed smiles, and nuanced gestures were scrutinized relentlessly by fans and media analysts, all seeking clues about the state of relations and unspoken tensions. Behind the scenes, private reflections revealed the depth of the emotional and strategic complexities surrounding the event. Rasheeda, in conversation with close friends, acknowledged Jasmine's mastery of narrative and perception. She didn't just get married, Rasheeda admitted. She made a statement. Everything was calculated, from the invite list to the way she engaged with people. It's impressive and intimidating at the same time. Kirk, while more skeptical, recognized the shift in dynamics and the power of public narrative. We have to respect the impact she's had, he told a confidant. She's changed the way people see all of us, and we need to respond thoughtfully. As the months rolled on, Jasmine leveraged her influence to expand her presence into new domains. Philanthropic engagements, public speaking opportunities, and strategic collaborations allowed her to reinforce her narrative of empowerment while remaining in the public eye. Morris's steady support was crucially managed the balance between private life and public perception, allowing Jasmine to maintain control while navigating the complexities of increased scrutiny. Their partnership became a template for measured influence, demonstrating the power of coordination, trust, and strategic alignment. Fan engagement remained intense. Social media forums, reaction videos, and commentary threads dissected every minor detail from the wedding and its aftermath. Fans debated motives, interpreted gestures, and speculated on future developments. Every interaction, whether a casual post or a fleeting public appearance, was examined for insight into the ongoing dynamics between Jasmine, Morris, and the Frosts. Analysts noted that this level of engagement demonstrated the effectiveness of Jasmine's strategic approach. She had not only captured attention but had maintained it with consistency and control. Meanwhile, subtle undercurrents of tension persisted in the background, while the public observed poise and composure. Insiders suggested that the Frosts occasionally struggled with the shifting perception of their own narrative. Private discussions often revolved around maintaining credibility, managing social expectations, and navigating the long-term impact of the wedding on their reputation. Even small gestures, how Rasheeda interacted with fans, or Kirk's body language in interviews were scrutinized, revealing the ongoing negotiation between public perception and private intention. Jasmine's ability to manage these dynamics was remarkable. She maintained a careful equilibrium between visibility and discretion, sharing enough to engage fans and sustain interest while retaining control over her personal boundaries. Her media strategy included selective interviews, curated social media content, and occasional behind-the-scenes glimpses that reinforced her message of empowerment without overexposure. Maurice's role as a supportive partner enhanced this dynamic, offering a stabilizing presence that amplified her influence while maintaining the authenticity of their relationship. The broader entertainment industry took notice. Analysts highlighted the wedding as an exemplar of narrative mastery, personal branding, and strategic influence. Jasmine's approach was dissected in articles, podcasts, and media panels, with commentators praising her ability to transform a personal milestone into a cultural event that resonated across multiple platforms. Kirk and Rasheeda's responses, by contrast, were often framed as cautious and measured, emphasizing the contrast between proactive narrative control and reactive engagement. Rumors about future interactions between the parties continued to circulate. Fans speculated about potential collaborations, reconciliations, or conflicts, with each post, comment, or interview reigniting interest. Insiders suggested that Jasmine's careful curation of public appearances and social media content was designed to maintain intrigue, allowing the story to evolve organically while keeping attention focused on her. The Frosts' responses, while subdued, further contributed to the narrative complexity, providing contrast and context that enriched the overall drama. Private conversations among Jasmine's inner circle revealed her strategic foresight. She regularly reviewed media coverage, fan reactions, and social media engagement to adjust her approach. Every post, interaction, and public appearance was considered for its potential impact on perception and influence. Morris provided counsel when needed but largely deferred to Jasmine's instincts, recognizing that her ability to manage attention and narrative was central to their shared success. At the same time, Kirk and Rasheeda carefully monitored the ongoing attention. They considered public appearances, interview responses, and social media activity with the understanding that any misstep could shift the narrative, while they maintained composure. Private reflections suggested a heightened awareness of Jasmine's influence and the subtle ways in which her strategic decisions had redefined public perception. Their careful management of public behavior highlighted the contrast between proactive control and reactive caution, underscoring the effectiveness of Jasmine's approach. As the year progressed, Jasmine expanded her influence further. She participated in mentorship programs, community events, and media projects that reinforced her public image as empowered, strategic, and culturally relevant. Her ability to sustain interest, manage perception, and navigate complex dynamics positioned her as a model for influence and personal branding. Morris's supportive presence ensured balance, reinforcing authenticity and stability while amplifying Jasmine's narrative control. Fans and media analysts continued to dissect every detail. Discussions focused on subtle nuances, the way Jasmine engaged with the Frosts, the tone of Morris's statements, and the interpretations of social media content. Theories proliferated about motives, intentions, and potential outcomes, keeping the story dynamic and engaging. Jasmine's mastery of narrative control ensured that every analysis ultimately reinforced her influence, whether through admiration, critique, or speculation. Even as new events emerged, the legacy of the wedding persisted. It remained a cultural touchstone, frequently referenced in discussions of empowerment, strategy, and personal branding. The dynamics established during the wedding control, poise, and narrative mastery continued to shape the interactions and perceptions of all involved. Jasmine Washington had not only celebrated a union but had transformed it into a defining moment of influence, attention, and cultural significance. The Frosts' ongoing engagement, though measured, reinforced the complexity of the narrative. Subtle gestures, carefully timed appearances, and selective social media content demonstrated acknowledgement of Jasmine's influence while maintaining their own public credibility. The interplay between Jasmine's proactive strategy and the Frost's cautious responses created an enduring narrative tension that sustained public interest and engagement. Through all of this, Jasmine maintained focus on long-term goals. She leveraged the momentum of the wedding to expand her presence in media, philanthropy, and mentorship, demonstrating the ability to translate personal milestones into sustained influence. Morris's steady support provided both a foundation and a stabilizing counterbalance, ensuring that their shared narrative remained compelling, authentic, and strategically managed. As winter settled over Atlanta, the wedding's cultural significance remained undiminished. Social media continued to buzz, media outlets referenced the event in ongoing analyses, and fan engagement persisted at high levels. Jasmine Washington's strategic mastery of narrative, perception, and public attention had created a story that transcended the ceremony itself. It had become a symbol of empowerment, control, and influence, a moment that would be referenced, analyzed, and admired for years to come. In private moments, Jasmine reflected on the journey. She recognized the careful balance between personal fulfillment and public engagement, between private emotion and public perception. Maurice's presence allowed her to navigate these dynamics with confidence, reinforcing the authenticity of her narrative while amplifying its impact. The wedding had become more than an event, it was a masterclass in influence, strategy, and the art of controlling one's story. Fans, analysts, and insiders continued to engage actively with the unfolding narrative. Every gesture, every post, and every appearance was analyzed, interpreted, and discussed, ensuring that the story remained vibrant and relevant. Jasmine's ability to maintain control, sustain interest, and shape perception highlighted her strategic brilliance and underscored the enduring impact of the wedding. Through careful orchestration, deliberate engagement, and unwavering confidence, Jasmine Washington had achieved more than personal celebration. She had created a lasting cultural phenomenon, one that redefined narratives, influenced perception, and established her as a figure of empowerment, mastery, and strategic influence in the entertainment world. The echoes of that night, the subtle gestures, and the continuing interactions ensured that her story would remain captivating, influential, and endlessly discussed for months and years to come. The wedding, in essence, had become immortalized, not merely as a personal milestone but as a defining chapter in contemporary entertainment culture. It was a testament to Jasmine's intelligence, poise, and strategic mastery, a story that blended personal triumph with cultural influence, leaving an indelible mark on public consciousness and ensuring that every subsequent development, interaction, and reflection would be viewed through the lens of her remarkable control over narrative and perception. As the new year approached, the ripple effects of Jasmine Washington's wedding only grew stronger. What had begun as a personal celebration had solidified into a full-blown cultural phenomenon. Fans, influencers, and entertainment media remained captivated, analyzing the subtle dynamics between Jasmine, Morris, and the Frosts. Every social media post, interview, and public appearance became fodder for discussion, creating a continuous feedback loop that kept the story alive and evolving. Jasmine leveraged this momentum with remarkable precision. Her public persona was carefully curated, blending empowerment, charm, and strategic visibility. She selectively shared glimpses of her personal life moments with Morris, philanthropic initiatives, or behind-the-scenes interactions, always ensuring that her narrative remained positive, engaging, and authoritative. Morris, steadfast in his support, allowed Jasmine to lead, reinforcing her presence as the architect of her own story while maintaining the stability and authenticity of their partnership. Together, they were a masterclass in public relations, demonstrating how personal milestones could be transformed into lasting influence. The Frosts, meanwhile, continued to tread carefully. Kirk and Rasheeda maintained a composed public demeanor, attending events, managing social media, and responding to media inquiries with careful neutrality. However, insiders suggested that beneath this polished exterior, there remained an acute awareness of the impact Jasmine had exerted over public perception. Rasheeda admitted privately that Jasmine's control over the narrative was impressive, while Kirk emphasized restraint, recognizing the strategic implications of every move. Their cautious approach contrasted sharply with Jasmine's proactive engagement, highlighting the balance of power that had shifted since the wedding. Media coverage expanded in scope, exploring not only the wedding but also the long-term influence it had on perceptions of all involved. Analysis focused on narrative control, emotional intelligence, and the strategic management of public attention. Articles, podcasts, and talk shows dissected gestures, expressions, and social media activity, all contributing to a narrative that sustained engagement and intrigue. Fans debated motives, speculated about private interactions, and interpreted every public moment through the lens of the wedding's legacy, ensuring that Jasmine's influence remained at the forefront of cultural conversation. As Jasmine continued to navigate her public and private life, she introduced new layers of influence. Mentorship programs, media appearances, and community initiatives allowed her to extend her reach beyond entertainment gossip. She became a figure of empowerment, using her platform to inspire and educate, while subtly reinforcing her narrative of resilience and strategic mastery. Morris's supportive presence continued to provide balance, allowing Jasmine's voice to remain central while projecting an image of stability and authentic partnership. The Frosts' responses remained deliberate and controlled. Every public statement, appearance, and gesture was carefully measured to maintain credibility while avoiding direct confrontation. Analysts noted that their strategy emphasized caution and composure, a reactive approach that highlighted Jasmine's proactive mastery of the narrative. Subtle interactions, a polite nod here, a composed smile, they were dissected endlessly by fans and commentators, reinforcing the complexity of the ongoing drama and sustaining public fascination. Fan engagement intensified, driven by curiosity and speculation. Social media threads, reaction videos, and online forums were filled with debates about intentions, relationships, and future developments. Every post by Jasmine, Morris, or the Frosts was analyzed for hidden meaning, adding depth and continuity to the story. Jasmine's ability to maintain attention over an extended period was remarkable. Her calculated visibility ensured that the narrative remained dynamic, engaging, and compelling. Private discussions among Jasmine's inner circle highlighted her strategic approach. She reviewed media coverage, fan reactions, and engagement metrics to refine her public strategy. Each appearance, post, and statement was evaluated for its impact on perception and narrative control. Morris, while providing guidance and support, recognized that Jasmine's strength lay in her autonomy and mastery over attention, allowing her to shape her story with precision and confidence. The Frosts also remained acutely aware of the ongoing scrutiny. Their private reflections often revolved around balancing public perception with personal boundaries, ensuring that their actions did not inadvertently empower or reinforce Jasmine's narrative. Every interaction, social media post, and media appearance was carefully calibrated, reflecting the long-term influence of the wedding on their reputation and public engagement. The contrast between Jasmine's proactive strategy and the Frosts' measured response created a continuous tension that fueled fan interest and media coverage. As spring approached, Jasmine expanded her influence further. She engaged in philanthropic projects, public speaking events, and media collaborations that reinforced her image as empowered, strategic, and culturally relevant. These initiatives were carefully aligned with her ongoing narrative, demonstrating the ability to translate personal milestones into broader influence. Morris's supportive presence enhanced the authenticity and stability of her narrative, allowing her to project confidence and command attention without overexposure. The ongoing speculation about future interactions continued to captivate fans. Theories about potential reconciliations, collaborations, or conflicts proliferated, fueled by social media posts, interviews, and subtle public gestures. Jasmine's ability to sustain engagement without revealing all aspects of her personal life demonstrated her strategic mastery, maintaining intrigue while controlling perception. The Frosts' cautious engagement added context, contrast, and depth to the narrative, ensuring that public fascination persisted. Jasmine's private reflections reinforced her awareness of the power she wielded. She understood that the wedding had been a turning point, a moment that allowed her to reclaim her narrative, assert control, and influence perception. Morris's consistent support amplified her confidence and stability, enabling her to navigate the complexities of public attention and private relationships with skill and poise. Together, they maintained a balance that reinforced both authenticity and strategic influence, shaping perceptions and sustaining engagement across multiple platforms. Media outlets continued to reference the wedding as a cultural landmark. Analysts examined the dynamics of narrative control, public perception, and strategic engagement, often using Jasmine's example as a case study. Kirk and Rasheeda's measured responses highlighted the contrast between reactive and proactive management, reinforcing the significance of Jasmine's approach. Fans, commentators, and influencers revisited footage, gestures, and statements, ensuring that the wedding's legacy remained central to ongoing discussions of entertainment culture and personal influence. Over time, Jasmine's influence extended beyond the immediate drama. She became a model for strategic engagement, personal branding, and narrative mastery, demonstrating how a single event, when managed effectively, could reverberate across media, fandom, and public perception. Morris's partnership reinforced this image, providing a stabilizing force that emphasized authenticity, trust, and balance. The Frosts' ongoing caution highlighted the strategic implications of Jasmine's choices, underscoring the long-term impact of her mastery over narrative and attention. Fans remained deeply invested, constantly analyzing interactions, gestures, and public statements. Social media discussions, commentary videos, and online forums were alive with speculation, interpretations, and theories. Every post, photo, or interview contributed to an ongoing story that had evolved far beyond the wedding itself. Jasmine's ability to sustain engagement, maintain intrigue, and shape perception was unparalleled, securing her place at the center of a narrative that continued to captivate, influence, and dominate public discourse. Even as new events emerged in the entertainment world, the wedding's influence persisted. It became a benchmark for narrative control, strategic engagement, and personal branding. Jasmine Washington's careful orchestration, deliberate visibility, and unwavering confidence ensured that the story remained compelling, dynamic, and influential. Morris's supportive role reinforced stability, while the Frosts' measured responses highlighted the lasting impact of Jasmine's strategic mastery. Throughout it all, Jasmine maintained focus on long-term influence. She leveraged the momentum from the wedding to expand her reach, engage meaningfully with her audience, and establish a legacy that transcended immediate events. Maurice's presence provided grounding, authenticity, and support, ensuring that their partnership remained central to the narrative. Together, they navigated the intersection of personal triumph and public perception with precision, poise, and strategic insight. The Frosts' continued involvement, though subdued, added richness to the narrative. Subtle interactions, carefully timed appearances, and selective engagement reinforced the complexity of the story, creating tension, contrast, and continued public interest. The interplay between Jasmine's proactive strategy and the Frosts' measured approach ensured that the narrative remained dynamic, compelling, and endlessly discussed, cementing the wedding as a defining moment in entertainment culture. As months turned into a year, the wedding's legacy became undeniable. It was referenced in media coverage, social analysis, and fan discussions as a benchmark for narrative control and cultural influence. Jasmine Washington had transformed a personal milestone into a lasting phenomenon, demonstrating mastery over perception, engagement, and influence. Morris's steady support and the Frosts' cautious engagement created a layered, multifaceted story that captivated audiences and solidified her status as a figure of empowerment, strategy, and enduring impact in contemporary entertainment. Jasmine's ongoing reflection emphasized the depth of her strategic insight. She recognized that the wedding had been more than a celebration. It had been a turning point that allowed her to reclaim control, influence perception, and shape her public narrative. Morris's presence reinforced this dynamic, providing balance, stability, and authenticity. The wedding, once a single event, had evolved into a cultural symbol, demonstrating the power of narrative, strategy, and personal mastery. Fans and analysts alike continued to engage with every detail. Social media posts, public appearances, and media commentary were dissected, interpreted, and debated endlessly. Jasmine's ability to sustain attention, control narrative, and maintain intrigue highlighted her skill and strategic acumen. Kirk and Rasheeda's measured responses provided contrast, reinforcing the effectiveness of proactive narrative management. The story, far from concluded, remained vibrant, influential, and endlessly compelling. Through deliberate strategy, careful engagement, and unwavering confidence, Jasmine Washington had achieved more than a personal milestone. She had transformed the wedding into a cultural phenomenon, demonstrating mastery over narrative, influence, and perception. Morris's supportive role enhanced authenticity and stability, while the Frosts' cautious presence underscored the lasting impact of Jasmine's strategic decisions. The story would continue to captivate, influence, and dominate conversations, ensuring that the legacy of the wedding remained enduring, compelling, and unforgettable. Now, after witnessing the whirlwind of emotions, strategic moves, and jaw-dropping moments surrounding Jasmine Washington's wedding, it's clear that this isn't just a story about a couple saying "I do." It's a tale of empowerment, narrative mastery, and the subtle yet powerful ways one person can reshape perception, influence, and culture. You've seen how every gesture, every post, every interaction has been meticulously crafted to leave a lasting mark, and how Kirk and Rasheeda's responses only highlight the magnitude of Jasmine's impact. Fans are still debating, analyzing, and theorizing, proving that this wedding's influence isn't fading anytime soon. Now it's your turn to weigh in. What do you think about Jasmine's approach to controlling the narrative? Do you admire the finesse, the strategy, and the confidence? Or do you think the Frosts could have handled it differently? Did the wedding set a new standard for public events, or is it just another chapter in reality TV-style drama? Your opinion matters, and this is your chance to join the conversation. Comment below with your thoughts. Share your favorite moment from the wedding, and tell us what you think the next twist might be. If you want to stay updated on every shocking detail, secret revelation, and unexpected twist in this ongoing saga, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Every time Jasmine, Morris, Kirk, or Rasheeda makes a move, you'll be the first to know. And if you've enjoyed diving deep into this story, smash that like button. It helps us bring you more exclusive updates, in-depth analyses, and all the drama you crave. Finally, remember that this is more than just entertainment. It's a masterclass in strategy, perception, and influence. By engaging with this story, you're not just witnessing drama, you're learning how narrative shapes the world around us, how actions echo far beyond the moment, and how power can be wielded with subtlety and precision. So don't wait, comment, like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. Join the conversation, and make sure your voice is heard in the ongoing saga of Jasmine Washington, Morris Lewis, Kirk Frost, and Rasheeda. The story isn't over, and you don't want to miss a single twist.